All right. So for the month of October, I can't believe it's October 2025. It's crazy. I've been seeing Halloween decorations and Christmas decorations in Costco. So I guess we're in October. But for the month of October, we have, our focus is going to be on military spouse identity and really what that means to different military spouses that I get to interview that have had all walks and at all different stages of their military spouse journey. Today I'm really excited. I have here Allison Boatman, and I met Allison in the middle of 2019. And two things that stand out to me about Allison, and then I'll let her introduce herself, is she was or is, I'm sure she still is, but she was so committed to staying healthy and fit. And coming from the other, spouses, both, moms and dads on the street who had deployed service members and kids and careers and all the things, to have that example of somebody who's so committed to their own health journey was just inspiration to me and actually motivated me to be like, go to the gym, stay fit. And then the other thing I love about Allison that I wanted to share is I remember when her husband came home from deployment, and she had on this yellow romper, and it was so pretty, and she had the kids and everything, and her and her husband were sitting on the front porch of their house watching the kids play the day that he got home. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like a picture perfect postcard moment. I was walking by with the dogs and the kids, and I was like, oh, welcome home, but it was such a beautiful, perfect picture of what a spouse looks like, staying committed to their own journey of health and fitness, and then welcoming the service member home, and just this beautiful picture of what it all looks like. So with all that, I'll turn over to you, Allison.
Thank you, Chris. That really does mean a lot because I wasn't always into health and fitness. But I feel like when we moved to New York, I was kind of in that process of, mental health, physical health, all that was very important to me. Um, and I dived into a little bit of it in Texas when we were stationed at Fort Hood. I met a group of ladies there, a lot older than I was. And like, man, I'm like, they are beasts. And I'm like, I wish I was more like them. Um, but yeah, I mean, fitness has always been important to me. Um, and I did do a lot of it in New York. Monday through Friday, I felt like I was doing something. But I felt like it was really important for my mental health to do that. Because, my husband, deployed and TDY'd more than I can count, home alone with the children. Um, it's hard. It's hard mentally doing that on your own and finding ways that you can get plugged in, with a community of, whatever that may look like for you, whether that's finding workout buddies or work colleagues or, a church you might go to, like finding your niche and all of that, helps you grow and strengthen as an individual. But yeah, I can't say that I have continued the workout journey as much since moving here to North Carolina, but I've been, diving back into it because it's important. I had, for a long time, I mean, my husband and I married in 2004, and he was already in the military. He was Air Force when I met him, and I was freshly out of high school.
Wow.
And yeah, yes. Well, I met him when I was in high school, and he was already had a few years in service at that time. But I was still finding myself. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't working out. I mean, I didn't really have a clear direction for my life at that point. But I met him and I fell in love, and it happened quick. We got married 9 months after meeting each other. That's fast. It's very
Yeah.
fast. But we've been together 21 years in November this year. So
Wow.
yeah. And in that, I had to find myself. I was like, who is Allison? Because I don't know who this girl is. And she's thrown into this type of environment where I'm like, when I was young, I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to stay and live at home with you forever. I'm never going to move far away from home. It's comfortable here.
Mm,
I don't like change. And when I met Daniel and we got married, we were home, like I was near home for a couple years. We were at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base
mm.
for a couple years. We had Alyssa when I lived there. But then when she was a year and a half old, we were in Alaska,
Oh, wow.
very far away from home.
Yeah.
Huge adjustment. And I was like, I was depressed. I was like, why am I so far away from home? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do to get out of this rut that I'm in? Like,
Yeah.
how do I better myself? And, I was there to support Daniel, but I was also there, as just a regular person, as a mom, as a wife, and finding myself outside of that was kind of hard initially, but again, like I found my people, like, you know, found a church to plug into, and not only that, like other ladies that were going through the same experiences that I was going through.
Mm,
I am not one to like throw myself into like situations so quickly. I'm more of like an introvert, I would say. Like I would have called myself an introvert in the very beginning, but now I'm kind of in the middle. Like, because before I'd have to have like that extroverted friend find me, cling on to me, and then, drag me
yeah.
along to all these things. And I'm like, I can't always rely on someone to drag me through all these things to get me through life. Like, that's not sustainable, Like, I do, I have a lot of friends that I've met throughout the way that have been such an encouragement. Some of them have kind of drugged me, you know, through certain seasons, but I've also have clung on to and have drugged some other friends along the way. Like we've helped each other, we pick each other
Mm,
up, in those
yeah.
difficult times. And I feel like the working out and eating healthy um, had really helped me get through those hard times. Um, because you're taking care of yourself. Because I would feel like sometimes I would find myself a little depressed and not really know like what direction I should be going. Or when the husband might be deployed, you can easily find yourself kind of woe is me,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So, really digging deep, I feel like, and finding that person. It doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could be that one person that you find that you can really relate to. And then just do life with, because, life, like, just because the husband or the spouse is deployed doesn't mean life pauses. It continues. Um, and then what you do with that is important. you know, whether that's, again, working out, serving your community, just being a friend to someone in need is very important. It kind of shaped who I was. Because, I mean, like, I think I have, a heart to serve and, serving my friends in any way that may look like. And in New York, when, kids are a little older, um, and I felt like I had a lot more time on my hands to really focus on myself. Um, I felt like I was at my healthiest
Mm,
mentally and physically in New York. Um, because I took the time for myself, to really take care of myself, which I think is very important.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, but
How do you, like, when it comes to the kids, because you had Alyssa within the first couple of years, how did that, like, change the way you fell into the military spouse role? Like, was that easy? Did it make it easier to, like, find groups of people?
I think so. I think you gravitate to other women that have children similar ages.
Mm.
It's easier to get plugged in that way. Um, you know, I think kids, they I don't know, they make it easier to make friends, I guess, if you have children. It's like, um, I had a good friend. I had a lot of good friends in New York, but one that, we still kind of get together occasionally now throughout the years. I mean, we had similar kids to similar ages, and they became best friends. And the kids become best friends. I feel like the parents become best friends. It
Yeah.
kind of is the gateway to that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, one thing I think is cool is like and you hit at a really good point because like, okay, so the kids become friends and they meet at school or they meet in the neighborhood and then it connects the parents. And I don't know how you felt, but I kind of felt like it was almost necessary for me to become friends with my kids' friends' parents because it's not like you can keep them at arm's length because you have like friends from high school nearby or family or cousins or siblings or, or grandparents or parents. Those friends become your community.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when you need something like butter or you need like a
Hmm.
babysitter or something like it's like those people become your family or you go through
Oh, of
things like COVID
course.
or whatever.
Oh my goodness. Well, yes. And now I like here, in my like my husband's retired now, and I'm in a mixed community here. There are
Mm.
some families that are military and some that aren't. And I find myself, I'm like, man, like I'm making dinner or I'm making, a dessert, and I'm like, I need a stick of butter. And I'm like, can I really ask a neighbor here? I feel like so awkward asking a neighbor here for a stick of butter because, I mean, it was normal back,
Yes.
when I was living on post.
Yeah.
I felt like I could depend on anyone on my street to be like, hey,
Yeah.
do you have like a stick of butter or a cup of flour I can
Yeah.
have? And they were there immediately, like, with no questions asked. And that's what I loved about living in a military community like that. Like
Yeah.
going through something like COVID, that was one of the hardest times I think anyone's experienced. And, some, like myself, I had my husband deployed,
Yeah.
and that was tough. Like I
Yeah.
could not have gone through that by myself on my own without the help of my military spouses, because that, I mean, it made that really hard time a lot easier to go through because I had the support of so many, and it was such a blessing to have that, because if I were anywhere else, if I didn't have my ladies, it would be very hard.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about, that's what I love about military spouses is, their selflessness. They look at another, mom or dad, whoever is at home taking care of the kids, with a spouse gone. It's like we know how hard it is to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Like got to have that support um, from the people around you experiencing the exact same things. So,
Yeah, I think it's cool because you have like the common ground. So you have an
mm,
instant common ground every base you go to or, a post or whatever. Like you always have an instant common ground with someone because, like you said, you're all in the same situation of probably experiencing a TDY deployment, so some sort of separation, and probably not near family. Like, that's common.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you made me think of though, how do you feel about like the authentic part? Like where in front of spouses, did you feel throughout your 20 years, 21 years, um, that you were able to have bad days in front of spouses?
Oh gosh, there were many of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be transparent. You don't want to, act like it's sunshine and rainbows every day because it's not, and you're real, you're human. You're going to experience all the ups and downs, and you don't want like judgment from somebody else, like, oh man, you don't have your life together, like why not? And I mean, like I felt like I never really came across anyone that really had it all figured out and knew how to navigate military life so easily. So, I know I didn't. I mean, like even though, I mean, shoot, you could, you know, have been in the military with your spouse for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. It doesn't matter. I feel like there's always growth, there's always learning, and there's something you always can learn from and grow from, and it's not always going to be easy. I feel like every deployment, every move, every TDY, I mean, there's the ups and the downs, and having a friend that, you know, you can cry on their shoulder to or laugh with, just do everyday life with was important. And I can tell you, I mean, my husband and I moved around seven different times, and each time it was, change after change after change, and learning how to navigate through that and how to adjust to that. Um, it had its learning curves, it might be very rocky, for a couple months or a year, but then like, you slowly get into that your groove and finding your people and and really getting plugged in somewhere um was very important. And you know just being vulnerable to someone is, it's not always easy, but I think it's necessary,
Yeah.
especially just again with military life, and again just all the struggles that come with that sometimes. So
Yeah, it made me think about it because, like, last night I was picking up one of my kiddos or I was dropping him off at homecoming, and I ran out in like some comfy clothes, like borderline pajamas, because I wasn't planning on staying at the game, um, and of course, of course, when I run out like that, like it feels like 100 people are like, "Oh, hey Chris, how's it going? Hey Chris, how's it going?" And I'm just like, "Oh, can I just roll up and dip?" But it's funny. Like I messaged one of the moms later, and I was like, "Sorry," I was like, I wasn't very put together," and she was like, "Oh, it felt kind of good to see someone like that because we're always so like put together." And it made
mhm
me think, like, in military spouse world, I feel like that's not always expected because you're going to have days where, I mean, I remember days where, I'd lock myself up in my closet upstairs in the room and just cry because I was so
mhm
either lonely or just felt overwhelmed by all the things. And then you go call a friend or whatever, or come outside and like, all right, come on, we got to power through. Um,
mhm
but and maybe just in most civilian situations outside of the military spouse world, it's probably pretty common to go to school events and all those things and be expected to be put together. So it made me kind
right.
of think of the more vulnerable, like you said, or authentic piece of it where it's okay. And in a way, it makes us human as
Mhm.
spouses to know that, we're not always going to have perfect days. Some days are going to be, every day is perfect, but some days are going to be a little more messy than others.
Oh, very. I mean, there was a point in my life where I thought I had to be put together and, you know, look like I cared about my appearance, and now I'm like, I care less and less about that. Like, and it's like the days when you aren't put together, they're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? And it's like, well, yes and no, but you don't always have to be put together,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's an expectation to always be put together. Like, I feel like it's kind of, ingrained in the soldiers, to
Mm.
just, press on through and, just, and have that put together appearance all the time. And it's not reality.
Yeah.
But I know I mean, well, I mean, I'm approaching, um, you know, another year of being on this earth, and the older I get, I'm like, the less I care about like what people think of me. Um, and there's a lot of days where I'm going out of the door and I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, you're not put together, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, I think about like, it's kind of funny because I've been getting a lot of comments recently about how much um, my oldest daughter looks like me the older she gets. And I read this, I don't know if it was a GIF or a reel or something, but it said, careful how you critique yourself, especially if you have kids that get comments that they look like you.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, wow, that's so true. Because,
mm-hmm.
if I'm hard on myself, she could be hard on herself. And if that's what she
Right.
sees versus embracing, like, oh, today's a messy hair bun day or today's sweatpants day, I know how to dress up, but not today.
Yeah, every time, like recently, I mean, it's life, it's busy. I'm, not around a lot of people during the day, and because I, walk dogs and take care of animals, I feel like I'm around four-legged animals than I am two-legged. But I'm like, when I do get dressed, my kids are like, Mom, where are you going? What are you doing today? I'm like, nothing. I just thought about getting dressed today, actually looking presentable. Doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. But I think it's
Yeah.
important too. I mean, you can have those not so put together moments, but then, you know how to pick yourself up and get dressed, put on a little bit of makeup and, feel good about yourself some days.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's
but
like it's good to hold both of that because you brought up how the service members, have to always be put together is what they probably feel like, which I
mhm.
would say that's probably pretty true with uniform being squared away and all those things. And then also it's like when you're out with the service member, whether it's just at the exchange or you're actually at an event, I would say it's like maybe just caring about how you maybe not just so much look, but how you're being
Mm.
and how you're being is showing the support and care and love that you're giving to the service member. And I know there were days at the exchange, probably there in New York, where stopping and getting a coffee and with my spouse, whatever, and baby's crying, and of course we run into some high-ranking person. I'm just like, all right, well, this is happening. Like great. How did you
Yeah,
not
you just
feel
go.
squared away?
Oh, I know. I've been there. I've done that.
And you look back, at least I look back and I just kind of laugh now. And in the moment I was like, can this floor open up and swallow me? Is that possible? That'd be great.
Yeah, or seeing that struggling mom on her own with a basket full of groceries and
Yeah.
crying kids. It's like, man, I know how that feels,
Yeah.
and you just want to pick her up and hug her and tell her it's going to be okay. And
Yeah.
it will be. But that's why community is so important, and having your people is so important, because when you're breaking down at your lowest points, you have someone there to pick you up, dust you off, and like, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna
Yeah.
make it through this. Because again, my husband deployed when my son was just a couple months old. Missed his first birthday and all the important milestones, I wish he would have been there for. But I had such a great group of ladies surrounding me during that time where I felt like everything was going to be okay, even though my husband wasn't home and it was, just hard going through those life moments with my children and him not being there. I had just a large group of women just surrounding me and encouraging me and going through the same things, which made it easier to just push through and continue. Because, not the military life's not for everybody,
Yeah.
and I never thought that it was going to be me. I never thought, I never did, honestly. I was like, I hate change, like moving around constantly, kids changing schools over and over again, like, you make really great friends and then you have to leave them. And it was not hard on just me, but on the kids as well. And I feel like I've created some really strong children. Like,
Yeah.
just, how, well, I mean, they're just, I feel like they're used to it. Like they were born into that. And, just the strength and just resilience that our children have. It's kind of like a really big encouragement. It's like, man, my children are kind of teaching me something in these moments where I know it's hard on them, but and I have to be their strength. But I
Yeah.
feel like, you know, you really do learn something from your children. And, you know, again, and us just, teaching them, and helping them through those moments as well. I feel like really develop a really strong child.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're
And now
so adaptable.
they are, oh my goodness, they are. And, and I felt bad every time we moved, but they're like, I don't think, they might say, oh, mom, I miss such and such, but I'm like, well, maybe we could, try to give them a call or FaceTime, or if we're close enough, go and visit. So it's like, it's not a goodbye. It's always a see you later. And I feel like that's true for a lot of the friendships that I've made along the way. It's never really a goodbye. It's always a see you later. And I have kept in contact, and I try to. I'm not always great at it, but I do try to, stay connected to those ladies that I've really built really strong connections with. And just, try to keep up and still have those encouragements with them through long distances.
Well, and I think, I've been talking to a few spouses from different posts recently. In fact, I just met up with one who happened to be stationed near where my son graduated basic. And when I learned she was stationed out there, I invited her to come, and I hadn't seen her in over a decade. She was actually at the very first base I was at when the boys were little. So had met her about 16 years ago. And here she met me when my oldest was a baby. And then we were both like young spouses, like 19 years old. and,
Mm-hmm.
and she got to come to my oldest son's basic training graduation because she happened to be right there. And it's like, that's the beautiful thing, is you never know. I mean, the military world kind of feels smaller once you're in it, and you're like, oh, you're at this base. Oh, you're at this base. Okay, cool. I'll be here. I'll be there. And then you just
Mm-hmm.
pick up where we left off. And my daughter said to me, she was like, do you talk to her all the time? Because y'all have been talking like crazy. And I was like, no, We
No.
don't. No, we don't. But we can pick up at any point in time because we have that solid foundation of
Yes.
understanding.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, I I can totally relate to that. It's you pick up where you've left off, and it feels
Mm,
like no time has passed. And that's what I love about just the friendships that I've created along the way. I have a friend, a really dear friend that I met in Texas. She's going through a really hard time, and I didn't really know about it. I mean, she's not on social media, but I had it on my heart to be like, I'm gonna text her because she's on my mind.
mm.
And, she opened up to some things about me that she was struggling with. She's like, I haven't really told much other than just my community here, what was going on. But, we had such a strong friendship when I was in Texas that she felt comfortable to open up with me, and have her share those things to me. Um, and know that I'm not gonna, you know, just tell the world, if she doesn't want it broadcasted, I'm not going to broadcast it. Um, but it opened up again, like she's on the other side of the United States.
Yeah.
And, but I, can still send a little text, hey, how you doing? And we talk about kids and life and just pick up where we left off. And that's, even though we can't really meet, in person, we still have those really strong connections over the phone, um,
Yeah, it's
which
so
is
true.
valuable.
Yeah, it's so true. It brings so much value to be able to do that,
Hmm.
and to be able to connect after so much time.
Hmm.
Well, I wanted to ask you if, and we can maybe end with this, if you could go back, I feel like this is a great question for you because you've just recently had your spouse retire and you were in it with him for over 20 years.
Hmm.
So
A long
is there
time.
anything, yeah, is there anything that you would change or do differently or advice you would give yourself?
No, I mean, looking back at it, I was like, man, what am I getting myself into? But it really has molded and shaped me into the person I am today. And that's, learning how to accept change, adapting, in hard times and leaning on people. I don't like, again, like, I don't like telling people or just bothering people with my problems. It's like,
Mm,
but it's important finding that community, and I, I think I would have had a harder time with change in my life, a harder time making friends, a harder time, um, just adapting and doing all the life things if I hadn't had the experiences that I had went through, um, to kind of shape me. So there's a lot of blessings in that,
yeah,
even though it was hard. Um, I feel like I really learned who I am as a person through all of that. So I
mm,
definitely would not change a thing.
yeah. And
Mhm.
I think that's like maybe I'm speaking for myself, but that's like the ultimate goal of like not looking back and not wanting things to be different, but just like accepting and embracing what they actually are and what you were able to
Mhm.
take away from that. Because even the hardest of situations or experiences, there's always something that beautiful can come out of it. And
Right.
just being with that is like, wow, I have lived a beautiful life. I continue to live a
Mhm.
beautiful life and learn from it.
Yes, yes. And I have a daughter in college now, and that was like a huge adjustment for me. And I'm like, my kids are growing up, but
Yeah.
I still, and life is changing a lot differently than what it was before. Um, and I'm finding myself kind of like, I don't know, like in a limbo almost, like what now? But
Mm.
I I feel like in the quiet moments that I'm in right now and the changes that are happening that are much different than what I'm used to. Like I'm not used to living outside of the military lifestyle, and I'm not used to, I'm definitely not used to having a college student. But I'm like, and kids are growing up and they're moving out, and I'm like, okay, well, how can I still, even though I'm not a military spouse technically anymore, I still hold on to those things that I've learned, and just how to be a friend
Mm,
and how to be there for people, and just to still, I don't know, be able to serve and to help in any way that I can, for anyone that might need it, regardless if they're military or not. And I feel like it's kind of strengthened me a little bit to step out a little bit more out of my comfort zone and to help that neighbor, or that friend or anyone really that I come across that might be struggling in any aspect of their life, and see how I can, you know, make it a little better for them.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's so true. You take all of those things you learned and you can apply them in any situation, not just military spouse world.
hmm
And
yeah,
you can create really beautiful relationships and connections with people with that.
yes, we can.
So good. Thank you so much. You're my first one, and I feel like it was so appropriate to have you as my first spouse for October.
Oh, thank
So
you.
I
It's
love
an
this.
honor to be on your podcast, and
Thank you. I appreciate
yeah.
you. And I know that you were there for me during a crazy time too in our
Oh
little
my
military
goodness.
spouse community.
You
So
were
I'm
such
thankful.
you were such a busy, busy, busy mom, and I'm like, you have so much on your plate, and I'm like, Chris, how do you do it? I don't know how you, and you even took the time to like make us dinners and feed us and like make sure we're taking. I'm like, man, I need to be a better neighbor. But
I loved game night. That was one of my favorite things was Friday night game nights.
oh
I still miss that.
yes, oh my, it's never been quite the same. Like
No, it hasn't.
I miss my game nights.
Oh my
I
gosh. Well,
tell
maybe one day we can all reconnect and have just another game night. I would love that.
Yes, that'd be so much fun.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy your family. And thanks, Alice.